Here begins the chapters of going out in the day. Praises and recitations of going out and going down in the God's domain, which are beneficial in the beautiful West. They say, or words spoken, or to be spoken, on the day of the burial, of going in, throughout, and going out. Words spoken by. This is a three-part construct. You have the word spoken and by the Osiris, Ani, the Osiris scribe Ani. Hail to you, the bull of the West, by Thoth, king of eternity of me. I am the great God in the presence of the bark. I have fought for you. I am one of those gods in the tribunal who vindicated Osiris against his foes or enemies on that day of judgment. All of this is the word judgment. To your, so this is your company I belong. All this is your company I belong. To your company I belong. O Osiris, for I am one of those gods who made children of Nut. I slew or killed the enemies of Osiris. I imprisoned those rebels of his. To your company I belong. The same thing as before. Your company I belong. O Horus, I fought for you. I watched over your name. I am. So this is I and am. Thoth, who vindicated Osiris against his enemies or foes on that day of judgment. We have the word judgment again. In the great mansion of the prince. So this hieroglyphic has two words. The square is the mansion, and the person inside is the prince. So the mansion of the prince, which is in Heliopolis. Heliopolis. This is the city called Abju, or in Greek, Heliopolis. Abju in ancient Egyptian. It is called the city of Apollo. I am Basirite, son of a Basirite. I was conceived in Basuris. I was born in Basuris, so that I may be together with the men who mourned and the women who lamented for Osiris on the shores of the washermen, who vindicated Osiris against his foes or enemies. So they say, O Re, Thoth has vindicated Osiris against his enemies. So men say. Thoth has helped so that I may be together with Horus on the day of clothing of the dismembered one, opening the caverns for the washing of the inert one, and opening the doors of the spoken secret things in Rosajau. Rosajau is the city Giza, modern-day Giza. So I may be together with Horus to protect that left arm of Osiris, who is in Letopolis, or Khusum, a capital in Lower Egypt. Letopolis, Khusum. May I go in, may I go out with those who are there on the day of crushing the rebels who are in Letopolis or Khusum. May I be with Horus on the day of the festivals of Osiris. Offerings are made on the 6th day of festival and the 7th day of festival in Heliopolis or Abju. I am the priest in Busiris or Abju, or in Arabic, Abu Sir Bana, for the lion god who is in the house of Osiris, with those who have raised the earth. I am who sees the mysteries in Rosajau or the Giza. I am who reads the ritual book of the souls in Busiris or Jadu. I am the Sem priest at his duties. I am the master craftsman on the day of placing the bark of Sokar on the sledge bark. I am who takes the hoe on the day of breaking up the earth in Heracleopolis, the city of Hercules, Heracleopolis. This section here will move on to plate 6. It's part of plate 6 when it was originally cut up. So what we have here is plate 5. This is by far one of the longest chapters and most popular because it mostly frequently found and perhaps a guarantee that the funeral has been properly performed. So this is usually found on the temples, on the walls, inside the tombs, and on manuscripts because it can guarantee that the person has moved on to the afterlife. What you have here is something called retrograde. I'll explain it to you very simply. When ancient Egyptian is written on manuscript, it's written basically from left to right. It's always written from left to right. The sun rises in the left in the east and sets in the west. It's a lot of symbology. What you have is retrograde here. So as you can see, when the characters are facing left, that means you start from left. But the characters here, or the animals, if you want to follow the direction, is facing right. So we should technically be reading right. But if you notice, we're reading right, but moving left. Right? So if you follow the mouse, we're going right, down, back up again, right, down. But as you see overall, we're moving left. The text is moving correctly in the appropriate way, but it's being read in the other direction. Now this intrigues scholars. An explanation, basically, from what I found, is that left to right orientation signified the deceased would be both moving and directed towards the west. So the sun is rising in the east, but also directed in the west, which is setting, so right to left. So just slowly moving in that direction towards the west. And the land of the dead, according to ancient Egyptian sense of direction, the west was the right. Now, you'll notice here where I described in the end, what we have is a cutoff at the very end here, where you see the orange writing. What you have here is Budge, who was the first person to find this, who actually found the Book of Ani, had to cut up the text so he is able to read it properly, and that was his way. It's kind of been upsetting to a lot of people these days that this was done, but he did it, so there you go. So let's describe the scene here for you. Now, although this vignette is idealized, the veracity of the events and objects portrayed in it has been confirmed by archaeologists. Archaeologically finds in several tombs in New Kingdom, particularly in the intact burial of the architect Ka. Now, on view in the Turin Museum, so you can look at it there. The scene, also vividly, poignantly described in the Harper song, is worth describing in detail because several of the items and activities shown here reappear in the later chapters of the Book of the Dead. Now, what do we have here is a double register at the beginning of the vignette. Okay, right over here, a double register. Plate 5 represents the tail end of the funeral cortege. So the funeral movement here, this is the very end of it. At the top, we see 4 simply dressed men, probably servants, carrying various things to be placed in the tomb of the vignette here. You can see it at the very far right. The tools of Ani's profession. Here is his scribe. So he was a scribe, he was a writer, and this is one of his tools. Documented case as well, where he can actually put his documents inside. You also see a chair. You also see a bed, and also his walking stick that you see is carried here by the final person, and a tiet, as well as a jetted pillar. 2 amulets representing protection and endurance in the afterlife. In the lower register right here appears important individuals. Some of Ani's may be mourners, to judge from their costumes. These people attend the large box surmounted by a black figure of Anubis. Anubis is right here, the god of death and mummification. The chest holds the 4 canoptic jars containing Ani's internal organs, which were removed from his body during the process of embalming and mummification. The sides of the chest are decorated with the pattern of the inlaid jed pillar and the tiet sign. So tiet, jed, and so on and so forth. An elaborate example of such chest was found in the tomb of King Tutankhamun. So we actually have a real one on display in the Egyptian Museum. Next, we see in the main part of the procession. The focus of this section, indeed the entirety of plate 5 and 6, is the bier with Ani's mummified form, coffin resting on the ceremonial boat. You can see right here, his mummified form by his entourage here. And this is the sledge. It's a ceremonial boat with raised prows and stern imitating the barks. So they're raised, the prows, barks on which the gods travel. Beside here you see it kneels Ani's grieving widow, Tutu, who squats bare-breasted on the runners of the sledge. The chief male mourners follow in their elegant clothes. Here. The coffin, its surmounting shrine, the mourning Tutu, and the boat all have been placed on a sledge, which is being dragged towards the tomb as the canoptic chest following behind. Just as Osiris's body was sailed to the final resting place, so too would Ani's. The Osirian connection is further emphasized by the presence of two small flanking mummiform figures of Isis and Nephthys. You can see here Isis and Nephthys that were with him in the last plate, in plate 4, who are sometimes represented as two kites. Even though the procession moved across the sandy ground, the coffin would then be theoretically traveling by water. Here we can see a fine example of the Egyptian love for symbolic reenactment of the mythological past, which underlies the ritual. The bouquets of lotus flowers festooning both the biers of the canoptic jars. You see here the lotus flowers. Now directly in front of the sledge appears a priest, right over here, who wears a panther skin cloak over his garment. As he walks, he turns slightly backwards to offer incense in a typical arm-shaped censer to make a libation offering. You can see here the libation offering and the incense as well. Before him are 4 men who guide the top row of the 4 oxen pulling. Finally, this is the depiction of what's happening here. Ani is dead, his grieving wife, the mourners follow, and his organs inside this little sarcophagi with Anubis for mummification, and his many valuables in life that he wishes to have in the afterlife follow with him, and ready to go on to the west and enter the bark of Sokar so he can travel with the gods. I hope you've enjoyed this reading and description of the plate 5 of Ani's Book of the Dead. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and I'll make more videos later. Please stay tuned for plate 6.